Hi guys, welcome to Coffee Table Comics. I'm Jason Brubaker. So I get a lot of questions about how I color my comics and how I use textures and how I manage my time. And so let's just group these all together, should we? Yeah? Good idea? So we've been talking about textures, and I made this texture video about creating textures, and we'll apply that in one of the next videos on coloring. But as far as time management and how I color comics, there's this little middle ground that a lot of people don't talk about, and that is flatting. I don't know if you've ever heard of flatting.
You're awesome!
Oh, thank you. Yeah, flatting is great, and I hire a flatter.
I like your pecs.
Thank you, yeah.
I love you!
Oh, no, I'm not talking about flattering. I'm talking about flatting. Now, flatting a comic page is when you have your finished line art done, you create another layer underneath your lines called your flats. And this layer, you have all the colors separated for each little section. So like, for instance, you have the skin tones all one color, the machine one color, the wheels one color, the rail one color. And you create these flats so that you can easily select the specific parts in the future when you're coloring it. It's not actually coloring yet, but it's preparing your pages for color. When I first learned how to flat pages, or specifically to hire someone to flat pages for me, it sped up my process. It probably cut out about 3 hours out of my page coloring process. So this was a huge time saver for me to hire a flatter. But before you hire someone, you should probably understand what flatting is and learn to do it yourself if you're starting out. And then later on, once you realize, okay, this is why I need to flat, you can hire someone to do it for you. It's better to understand and know how to do the thing that you're giving someone else to do, that you're paying someone else to do, so that you can understand if they're doing a good job or not. Before we go on, please subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be doing a lot of tutorials and videos and interviews and how-to articles and all kinds of stuff. And it's all going to be here on YouTube. So subscribe if you like this kind of stuff, if you're trying to make your own comics. I've written a lot of information about making your own comics and how to break into self-publishing your own comics. I have a how-to book called Unnatural Talent. You can get it on Audible or Amazon or Kindle. So please subscribe and tell your friends about it if they're trying to get into comics and trying to learn how to make comics. So how do you flat? I'll just walk you through it real quick, what I know about it. So I'm in Photoshop right now. What we're going to do is grab our Lasso Tool. The Lasso Tool lets you select anything, right? Over here we have our lines. This is just one layer with black and white lines on it. And now when we have our Lasso Tool, we want to make sure to deselect the Anti-Aliasing tool up here, because Anti-Aliasing is great for taking your art and it kind of blurs the lines when you zoom in really close. You see this gray in the lines, it kind of blurs it. Well, when you have the Anti-Aliasing tool off and you make a selection, you'll notice there's no blurriness on the edges of those lines. They're just solid black or white pixels. So we want to turn off anti-aliasing while we're doing our flats and while we're working with our flats. It'll become clear later on why. So what we'll do is we'll start flatting this guy. And so what I'll do is I'll create a layer, put it underneath our lines, and title it Flats. I think that's how you spell flats. We got to make sure our lines are on multiply though, so that this layer will shine through it. So now that we're on our flats, let's get a nice skin color. We'll get our Lasso Tool again, and we'll zoom into this guy, and we'll get this polygon Lasso Tool so that it's just straight lines. And what we're trying to do is just split right down the middle of our black lines everything that is skin color. The more in the center of the lines you can get, the better, because then you'll have less problems later. And sometimes you'll have some funny fuzzy lines, especially when you're using a paintbrush or a Pentel brush pen like I'm using. So it's just your job to kind of guess as to where to go best. We'll deselect the teeth here. Anything in the mouth, we'll deselect that. Now you notice my lasso tool has a minus or a plus. Alt or Option will make it into a minus, so I can carve away at the selection. Shift will make it a plus, so I can add something to it. Make sense? So I'll use the minus, get rid of that. So now that we have this selection, we need to make sure that anti-aliasing is off. Because we have anti-aliasing off, there's this nice hard line of pixels underneath our really bad, blurry, zoomed in art. But once you zoom out, it looks like that. And so now, when you're using your magic wand, keep anti-aliasing off. You can select that later, and it's easy to then adjust. See, I can open up hue saturation and just adjust his skin tone to whatever I want it to be. Right? Now what we'll do is we'll just keep going. So there we go. So we have a couple things selected now, or flatted, and as you see, they're all on one layer below. So you can slide this layer around actually, but you don't want to do that. But just to give you an idea of what multiply does. So now that the whole page is flatted, we can go in here and easily select any of these layers when we're coloring it. And this is great for adding new layers with gradients and tones, but everything can be selected really easily. If you turn this on, you can select one piece at a time. If you turn this off, all the skin of that tone is selected. All the backgrounds are selected. All this is selected. So as you can see, this is why flats are important, because it just makes it super easy for getting in there and starting to lay down the color that you want. So this is all ready to go now. It's all ready to really start refining and honing those colors. Creating good flats will save you so much time when you're actually coloring it. So below in the links, I have some tutorials on flatting linked up. One is by Kazu Kibushi, who does the Amulet series, and he did the Flight anthologies. He has a great tutorial on flatting, the basics of it. The other place you can go for flatting is Gutter Zombie. Gutter Zombie is a forum for comic colorists, and so this is kind of a great place to learn about coloring comics, and they have a special place for hiring people to color work, or you can post your comic there and request someone to help you color it and pay them. So after you've learned how to flat your comic and why you need to flat it, I would suggest hiring someone to flat your pages for you if you can afford it. And it's usually not that much money. If you're an indie publisher, you can probably ask for, I'm going to throw this out there, but you could probably ask for $5-10 a page to flat your comics. And not everyone's going to want to, be hired for that rate, but I've done that in the past, and I have a great flatter now who I've given him a raise, and I'm still indie, but it still comes out of my pocket. So, and he does a great job. He knows exactly what I need. His name is Aaron Daly, and you can find his link to his blog, and you can hire him to flat your pages for you. And he does a great job. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he gives it to you exactly the way you ask for it. And he's very quick and efficient. And it's like I say, it saves me hours of time on every page. Now, I know some of you are thinking, well, there's got to be an easier way to do this, and I don't want to have to spend money. Well, there are plugins in Photoshop and scripts you can download that will go through a certain process to flat your pages for you. And they're kind of hit and miss because, especially if you're like me, if you use ink and stuff and there's broken lines, then you kind of need someone who has a brain to look at it and just make good decisions on what needs to be flatted a certain way. So just running a script will work with some kind of art, but it won't work with everything. So there's a link in the description below for some plugins for Photoshop. Now, if you're using like Manga Studio, there are tools in there that allow you to flat things really quickly. And so that's a really nice advantage if you're creating everything in Manga Studio, which, if you're starting out today, I would suggest taking a look at it. It's really cheap and it does all kinds of stuff for you. But if you're doing it on paper, if you're drawing with pencil or ink, you need to get that stage done, that you need to flat your art. You need to somehow process your artwork in going to color. So one thing that makes flatting interesting is it's not necessarily coloring your comic. It looks like you're coloring your comic, but you're not. You're just throwing in kind of random color swatches to be able to grab. But one thing you can do to even speed up the process more is give your flatter a color key. So if you have a bunch of characters that are reoccurring characters or machines or locations, you can actually give them a color key to work with and say, this building has these shades, these characters have these colors, and if they're willing to work with you like that, they will provide you flats that have all the local color. Now, local color is the color in your comic that has no special lighting. It's just flat. It's the exact color. So it's like my skin color is exactly my skin color. There's no window lighting. There's no rounded shading. There's nothing. It's just a flat, peach color, or in my case, mayonnaise white. Flat the room to look like this, And then it's easy for you to go in and manipulate those colors, add shadows, add lights, and but you have the base colors, the local colors already flatted and easy to select. So that is a huge time saver. And like I say, ever since I hired a flatter to start flatting my pages, and it was about halfway through Remind Volume 1, it increased my workflow like crazy. And I mean, I was doing this at night, after work. And so I really needed to figure out how to speed up this process. So definitely look into flatting. Go to Gutter Zombie, dig around through there, see the examples of flats, submit your pages to Gutter Zombie in a thread and say, hey, I need someone to flat these. What rates would you give me? Or even tell them your rate. If you want to only spend $5 a page or $10 a page, say this is my budget. And some of them will do it for free to show you that they can do it if they like your project. So in the next video, we will actually dive into how to use these flats and how to start applying our textures and all that stuff. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments below, and I will answer them in a future video. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for subscribing, and I will see you guys next time.